One of the major issues with a low-fiber diet is you increase your risk for colon cancer. Are you aware that the average person only consumes 15 grams of fiber a day? I, on the other hand, consume about 60 grams of fiber, and I only eat 2 meals a day. And sometimes I only eat 1. And get this, I'm not stuck in the bathroom all day long either. My body has adapted over time. Let's do a little math here. The average intake is 15 grams. The recommended daily intake is 25 to 30 grams by the experts and the medical industry out there. And I'm consuming 55 to 60 grams every single day. And get this, the yearly healthcare costs are nearly $5 trillion. I have it on good authority to believe there are 2 major contributing factors that have led to this burgeoning healthcare crisis that we are under. One of which is late night eating, which I'll save that for another video. And the second thing is a low fiber diet. Enter fiber maxing, which has become quite the trend on TikTok lately. But is it a fad or is it a trend that can lead to long-term change? In this video, I'm going to address the issues related to a low fiber diet. I'm going to flesh out exactly what the fiber maxing diet is. I'm going to break down my high fiber diet, and I'm going to show you how to follow a safe and healthy fiber maxing plan of your own. But before I get down to all the fun fiber facts, make sure to like and share this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit that little bell indicator button so you're always informed when I release a new video. Let's start with the problems with a low fiber diet. First things first, it increases the risk for colon cancer. There's no 2 ways around it. We talk about that, we hear about it in the news all the time and in the media. It's one of the biggest killers on the face of the earth, next to heart disease. I know firsthand about colon cancer because I saw my dad take his last breath when I was 19 years old from colon cancer. He was sitting in a hospital bed, he's actually lying in a hospital bed, a mere 105 pounds, his cheeks were sunken in, and he was completely emaciated. And it was all due to the hands of colon cancer. And it was at that point in my life when I was 19 years old that I realized I need to figure out what caused cancer for him and what happened. And when I looked back at his life, one of the things that popped up to me was he had a low fiber diet. He ate a lot of processed foods, high amount of sodium, drank a couple beers a night, chewed Red Man tobacco like it was going out of style, and he was highly stressed. And I pretty much have worked on all those other things. And then fiber is the main thing that I put into the front and center of my diet going forward, because I started doing the research and I started reading about it. And the reason I do videos like this one is because I don't want you to have the same fate that my father did. And something as simple as increasing your fiber intake can add years to your life. But I digress. One of the major issues with a low fiber diet is you increase your risk for colon cancer. Secondly, overeating can occur and you can end up becoming overweight and obese. And quite simply, this happens because you eat a ton of processed carbs that are low in fiber, such as bread, potato chips, and those kind of things, that are high in calories and low in nutrients, and especially low in fiber. We don't get a feeling of fullness when we eat those kind of foods. So we end up going off the deep end, we eat tons of them, and the next thing you know, we gain weight. Worst case scenario, we become overweight and we become obese. And then we end up contributing to the obesity epidemic as well as the low fiber epidemic. And yes, I do believe that the low fiber diet is an epidemic. Just nobody talks about it. Another issue with a low fiber diet is your risk for metabolic syndrome increases, which is a battery of bad instances in your system that raise your risk for an early death. High cholesterol, high blood sugar, high triglycerides, and oftentimes fatty liver are all the contributory factors to metabolic syndrome. We don't want that. You keep eating a low fiber diet, you're going to raise your risk for that. So stop it! Another issue is your blood sugar is out of control when you have a low fiber diet. When you eat all those processed carbs and you don't get a high amount of complex carbs and fiber in your diet, your blood sugar spikes, your insulin spikes. Back and forth it goes, back and forth it goes. The next thing you know, you increase your risk for diabetes. Another major issue and health concern that we have. That is talked about often though. But just know a low fiber diet can contribute to that and increase your risk for it. Lastly, and there's a big one that I see a lot of, constipation. Something we don't want to talk about. When your pipes get all clogged up inside your system, that is bad. It is very, very bad. That is one of the things that lead to colon cancer. Because all that waste lays in your stomach over and over again for long periods of time, and it can raise your risk for colon cancer. And if you're following a low fiber diet, you're not pushing all that stuff through your intestines. It just lays there, like a lazy dog in the middle of a summer day. And if you ever see anyone walk around the streets or worked with someone whose face is always all scrunched up and they're always mad and they're always angry and they're always depressed and they're always anxious and they're always in fear and doubt, guess what? Maybe they have a low fiber diet and they're constipated. You can usually tell because they have a scrunched up look on their face like I just mentioned. And they're constantly complaining about everything. Do you like being in a bad mood? Keep eating a low fiber diet and you could probably stay there. I don't suggest you do it. We'll talk more about that later. So those are some of the major problems associated with a low fiber diet. You don't want to have any of those problems, my friend. Now let's shift gears to the fiber maxing trend. Like I said earlier, it is caught ablaze on TikTok and it is being talked about in social circles and stuff like that. And that's totally fine. Basically what's happening is people are trying to get tons of views and followers and subscribers and attention. So they're videotaping themselves eating tons of fiber. Bucket loads of it, actually. And on paper, that sounds wise and smart, but I'm going to get down to some of the risks of that in a minute. But first, let me finish the fiber maxing trend. They're doing this in an attempt to try to improve their health because they heard all of a sudden that fiber is beneficial for them. But really behind the scenes, most of those people are just after views and likes and subscribers and all that kind of jazz, which isn't how I roll. Yeah, it's nice, but my health always comes first, and your health should come first too. Don't worry about your likes and your follows and all your social media status. Worry about becoming an indestructible human being first, and then worry about all that stuff second. Having said all of that, there are some major benefits involved with a high fiber diet. First things first, we'll go in reverse order of what I just mentioned. It reduces the risk of constipation. If you're not constipated, your system is working good. Your digestive system is running nice and smooth, and that's exactly what you want. It'll put you in a better mood. It'll reduce the risk of anxiety and depression and fear and doubt and all those things I talked about. And most importantly, it will reduce your risk for colon cancer and other forms of cancer too, I might add. Following a high fiber diet is also beneficial for blood sugar stabilization. When you're not eating processed carbs, but you have complex carbs that are high in fiber, you don't get that huge, massive spike of blood sugar, and you don't get a secondary spike of insulin behind it. That keeps your blood sugar and insulin levels on a nice even keel, reducing your risk for diabetes. A high fiber diet has also been known to help reduce the risk of heart disease. You should know by now that the heart is the strongest muscle in the body. You want to do everything in your power to keep it strong and to keep it pumping blood adequately throughout your heart for your entire life. A high fiber diet can help benefit you in this avenue. Then you have satiety, also known as fullness. When you eat foods that are high in fiber, they help fill you up and they keep you feeling full for a longer period of time. This has a two-way effect. Number one, it fills you up immediately so you're not going to eat as much food. And number two, it keeps you feeling full for a longer period of time, so you're not going to overeat or you're not going to reach for food for several hours after you eat a high fiber meal. And I know that world really well because I only eat twice a day and sometimes once, like I already said. A lot of people like to anchor to a high protein diet and get 1 to 2 grams of protein per pound of body weight or some kind of weird metric like that every single day. That's not how it works for me. Remember, I'm consuming 55 to 60 grams a day, so I need to focus on fiber. That is the main constituent in my meals, and then I work around that. Lastly, there's this major benefit to your gut health when you have a high fiber diet. You may have heard this word called the microbiome, right? That's pretty trendy and a lot of people talk about it all the time. They refer to the gut as the microbiome, but technically they're wrong. The microbiome is all the cells that make up the whole entire body. But it just so happens that there is a huge amount of cells in the gut that compose a big amount of the microbiome in the gut area. But they fail to talk about the rest of the body. They just talk about microbiome in the gut. Really doesn't matter. What does matter is this. Just know that if you have 5, 10, or 15 grams of fiber a day, you're barely even affecting your gut health at all. You're not even scratching the surface. It's when you get up above 50 grams, when you get to 50 or 55 or 60 grams of fiber, that's when you really start to populate that good gut bacteria in the low intestine. And sure, you can take probiotics and prebiotics and things like that all day long, but if your gut is already in bad shape, those are going to have very little effect. Your first line of defense in rebuilding bad gut health is to increase your fiber intake. So those are some of the key benefits associated with a higher fiber diet. Now, let's talk about the risks of this fiber maxing trend. A lot of these asshats on TikTok and other social media platforms are just consuming bucket loads and wheelbarrow fulls of high fiber foods, thinking they're doing justice for themselves. Or, like I said before, hoping that they can boost their views and their followers. And they probably are. The problem in this situation is simple. Ego is in control. I guarantee you this, if you're used to eating 15 grams of fiber every single day, and then you make this gelatinous bowl of pudding or something in front of you with psyllium and beans and all these other things in it, and you whiff the whole thing down and there's, say, 50 grams of fiber in that bowl alone, you're going to have some major gastrointestinal problems, my friend. You likely will be doing 50-yard dashes to the bathroom all day, or at least for several hours, number one. Secondly, you're going to have gas, you're going to have bloating. It's going to feel like an elephant is standing on your stomach. You're going to have cramps. No one's even going to want to be around you. You may not even be able to stand yourself. There's a term we use out on the streets once you break a 2 to 5 day water fast called disaster pants. This is when you overconsume food and your digestive system is not ready for it, and you end up running to the bathroom a million times. I've talked about this in some of my fasting videos. Well, guess what? If you go from like no fiber to a huge amount in a short amount of time, disaster pants is almost guaranteed. So stop it! Don't pay so much attention to the influencers on TikTok. Pay attention to you and how your body responds to things. Now I want to get down to exactly what my day of a high fiber diet looks like. As you can see, I have got quite a collection of things strewn about right here. These are add-ins that I include in my meals on a regular basis, on a daily basis actually. Some of these things I alternate in and out, and some of these things I use on a daily basis all the time. Non-negotiables. First things first, I usually break my fast after 16 to 18 hours of fasting. And at that point, and anytime past that, well, not anytime, but if you fast for say 18 hours or 16 hours or 20 hours or 24, your stomach is going to be like a major sponge, and it's really going to be starved for nutrients to soak up and to utilize. That is a really good time to eat super clean, not by going to McDonald's or a fast food chain. Remember that. When you're breaking your fast, especially if you're doing time-restricted eating like I do, you want to make sure that first meal is as nutrient-dense as possible. And getting a good amount of fiber in there is going to be very beneficial for you. So usually what I will do is I'll make a bowl of some kind. If I'm going to be eating at home, this is. It'll be, oatmeal will be a base, which I have some oatmeal right here. I'll talk to you about that in a second. Or I'll get some frozen fruit and some cottage cheese and yogurt, and that'll be my base. Or I will get a high fiber, low carb cereal, which I have here, and I'll tell you about that in a second. Or I'll get a good high fiber cereal in general, which I also have right here, which you'll see that in a second too. And then I put in all of my supplements, which I have a lot of plant-based powdered supplements that are good for male health. And then I'll add apple cider vinegar to my bowl, because that helps slow the absorption of carbohydrates, and it's a major antioxidant as well. And it is also good for gut health. That's a little hack for you. And then I add some of this stuff. Let me just talk to you about it. This is called Kachava. I actually have a video on Kachava. Make sure to check that out, and I do a whole review on it. I think this stuff is fantastic. What I like about it is a whole meal replacement. It's got a balance of protein, carbs, and fat, and it's got a good amount of fiber in it. 6 grams per serving. So if I form the base of my bowl with this stuff, instead of putting it in a shaker bottle and just shaking it and drinking it, which is fine, that's 6 grams of fiber by itself, I'll put add-ins to it. I'll put peanut butter powder in there as well, which contributes another 1 to 2 grams of fiber. And then I'll go to some of these things. One of which is chia seeds, right here. These have 4 grams of fiber per serving, per tablespoon actually, which is a good little bump in fiber. Then Psyllium husk. This is one of my heavy hitters right here. This also contributes 4 grams of fiber. So if I had this and a serving of these each, then we're already up to 14 grams of fiber right there. Is my math right? 8 plus 6, yes. So these 3 things right here alone contribute 14 grams of fiber. But then, if I put half a cup of blueberries in there, I just added 3 more grams of fiber. Now I'm up to 17 grams of fiber. And if I have the peanut butter powder in there, I have 2 more grams of fiber. That's 19 grams of fiber. See where I'm going with this? I add these little tiny things in there, and all of a sudden the fiber starts to grow and grow. And before I know it, my first meal of the day is usually between 20 and 25 grams of fiber. Now, I want to turn your attention to this right here. This is called Raw Organic Meal by Garden of Life. I really like this as well, sometimes as a base. This is similar to Kachava because it is, I would consider it a meal replacement because it has a balance of protein, carbs, and fat in it. But actually, this is pretty low in carbs. It has 7 grams of fiber per serving and 13 grams of carbs. So you can just say 6 grams of fiber if you want to deduct the fiber from it. And some people believe in that and some people don't. I happen to believe in it, that fiber makes certain amount of carbohydrates negligible. And I once talked to a nutritionist friend of mine and she said, cut that number in half. So even if you did cut that in half, figure 3.5 grams of fiber minus 13 grams of carbs, you're still talking about under 10 grams of carbs for this alone. But that's not how I do it. I put this in a bowl and then I add all my other stuff. So I have 7 grams of fiber here. And then if I put my chia seeds in and my psyllium husk and my peanut butter powder and some of my other fixins and some berries, I'm back up to 25 grams of fiber again. That's masterful, my friends. Then we've got this good old-fashioned grape nuts, non-GMO verified. That is why this is in the house right now. Otherwise it wouldn't be, because I like to go organic when I'm going with cereals and stuff like that. This also has 7 grams of fiber and it's got 6 grams of protein, which isn't bad for a cereal. I absolutely love grape nuts. I like them warm, I like them cold, I like them crunchy, I like them soggy, I like them in any preparation. So sometimes I'll put those in a bowl with some regular organic milk or plant-based milk, and then I'll put all my trimmings in it, all of my powdered supplements, and then the fiber supplements as well, and the fruit and the whole 9 yards, and then I'll bulk that sucker up with fiber. And again, I'll be 20 to 25 grams. Then we've got this right here. This is a special type of oatmeal that I like. I got this at a local home goods market, believe it or not. It's called Australian creamy style oats with flax flakes in it. Flax itself is similar to chia seeds because it's higher in fiber and it's got a good amount of omega-3s in it too. So a pretty good heavy hitter would be flax seeds, chia seeds, and hemp seeds as well. Those can all be bought by themselves, and you can also find combos of them where they're all mixed together, and sometimes they're ground up too. And you can add those to any type of meal that you're eating to increase your fiber intake. This alone has 5 grams of fiber and 5 grams of protein per serving. And again, I'll use this as a base, and then I'll put my fiber stuff into it, and all the rest of my fixins and trimmings. And again, I'm up to 20-25 grams of fiber, just like magic. And one of the last things I'd like to turn your attention to is this right here called Catalina Crunch. This is a keto cereal, which has 11 grams of protein and 9 grams of fiber per serving. You put this in a bowl with all the rest of the fixins, and then you can quickly increase your fiber up to the 20 to 25 gram range. Now remember, the average person gets 15 grams of fiber a day. The recommended daily allowance of fiber is 25 to 30 for the average adult, and I'm eating 55 to 60. In this one first meal of the day, I'm getting close to the average recommended amount by the experts. So if you're able to pull that off, and you're able to get 20 to 30 grams of fiber in that first meal of the day, you're setting yourself up for victory, my friends. And I'm only eating twice. You might eat 3 meals a day. You might eat multiple meals a day. I don't suggest you eat multiple meals a day. I'll get to the actual weaning yourself into the fiber intake in a second. But you're going to do what you're going to do. Just know that you should increase your fiber intake. Okay, there are a couple other ancillary things on this table that I want to show you that I didn't mention. So my second meal of the day, when I'm preparing it or making it, I try to have a huge amount of vegetables. I sometimes have a gigantic salad, or I'll make a ton of vegetables. I'll chop them up and I'll put them in a skillet and I'll fry them up with some coconut oil and some seasonings. And I form my base with a ton of vegetables and a salad. That's non-negotiable. And then I rotate the vegetables and I rotate the salad greens with every meal I eat, because I'm a big fan of dietary diversity, which further improves gut health. So I probably get somewhere between 5 and 10 grams of fiber just from the vegetables I eat alone. And then oftentimes I'll add things to the meal like refried beans. This is a black bean refried beans that's also vegan as well, because sometimes they add lard to them. Well, if you eat them in a Mexican restaurant, you're probably going to get lard in your refried beans, and you don't want that. But refried beans and just beans in general are very high in fiber. You've heard all this hype about it, and it's absolutely true, and they're good to add to meals, and they got a decent amount of protein. I'm not going to be like nutritionists and dietitians out there that tell you, oh yeah, eat beans, they're a great source of protein. They're not. They're barely a good source of protein. You might get 5 to 7 grams of protein in a serving of beans, which to me is not much. If it's not a double-digit amount, then it's meaningless. Same thing with milk. People are like, oh, milk is a great source of protein. It's a complete protein, and it's got about 7 grams, and I don't mean to get off topic here, but it's true. There's not a ton of protein in milk, and there's definitely not a ton of protein in beans. If you eat a ton of beans, there will be a ton of protein, but you're also going to need a ton of toilet paper when you're done eating that meal. And if not, you're probably going to need it an hour or two later. But I digress again. This does have 5 grams of fiber and 7 grams of protein per serving, pretty much what I just said, which is pretty good. Now, you can eat these as they are, as a side dish, beans, on your plate. You can put them into salads. You can make a casserole out of them. There's a lot of ways you can incorporate beans. From a particular health perspective, they're all pretty much even keel. I would say black beans are a little bit higher in antioxidants, but just choose beans that you like and just start adding them into your meals. It's that simple. You get a quick hit of fiber with them. I want to talk about this too. This is the Simple Truth brand, which is in our local Smith's grocery store, also known as Kroger. If you ever heard of Kroger? I found these in the sale bin the other day. It's a high protein macaroni and cheese, and I want you to fix your gaze in the middle there. 7 grams of fiber per serving and 21 grams of protein. This is a guilt-free macaroni and cheese version. I like to get these every now and then and build meals around them. So if I made this and prepared it and had a serving of it, I'm getting 7 grams of fiber just from this alone. Then if there were beans in that meal and a big ton of vegetables, let's go 7, 7, and 7. There's 21 grams of fiber right there. But it gets even better. When I'm done with my meal, I've got a major sweet tooth, but I like to go healthy as much as I possibly can. And I often get coconut date rolls, or I get dried apricots, or I get these right here, organic figs. Now you can find dried Turkish figs in your grocery store, which are great. Always go organic. Or you can find these kind, which are called Smyrna figs. For one package, this little tiny package right here, 5 grams of fiber. So if you do the math, I'm at 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 20, I'm at 26 grams of fiber if I had the meal I just talked about and I added these. But I don't stop there. I have another slam dunk I want to show you. These are called Extreme Wellness High Fiber Wraps, and I absolutely love them. I'm a big fan of bread, I'm a big fan of wraps, and these are very guilt-free. It says right on the front of the package, keto certified. And not that I follow the keto diet specifically, but I do like to get keto foods every now and then because I do know that they're usually high in fiber and lower in carbs. And I sometimes like to do carb cycling. But these are amazing. They're soft, they're delicious, 60 calories per tortilla, 4 grams of protein per tortilla, and 12 grams of fiber per tortilla. So if I had 2 of these, which I do every night, that's 24 grams of fiber. And if you add that to the 20, I think I had 26 added up before, what does that equal? 36, 46, that's 50 grams of fiber. 50 grams of fiber in my second meal alone. And if you add the 20 or the 26 for my other meal, I'm over 70 grams of fiber. So that, my friends, is a trick of the trade on how I do it. And I encourage you to get to a point where you follow a similar diet that I am. Now it's time for you to learn how to fiber max safely and healthfully. Like I mentioned before, I don't want you to just start consuming 60 grams of fiber a day out of nowhere. You want to do it slowly and progressively. I would suggest starting by adding 5 grams of fiber to each meal and do that for, say, 2 weeks. Then add another 5 grams and then add another 5 grams and keep on going until you get to the 55 to 60 grams a day. Be patient, don't overload your system, and it's completely up to you whether you want to track your progress on social media or not and talk about fiber maxing. But that is the safe way and the healthy way to do it. You want to wean yourself in. Once you get to the high fiber status, you are going to notice lots of magical things. You're probably going to have a boost in performance in the gym, outside the gym, with your brain function, with your happiness, maybe even in your relationships. To me, it is one of those things that is not talked about enough, but it needs to come to the forefront. If people start following more of a high fiber diet across America, and everyone gets to a point, like everyone gets to a point where they're eating 55 to 60 grams of fiber a day, I'm pretty sure we can move the needle on the healthcare crisis. Might take a year or two, but I bet we can do it. And then if we eliminate the late night eating, look out. That trillion is going to get knocked down to a billion really fast, and then a million, and then 100,000, and then before you know it, poof, gone. One can dream, can he? Okay, I've rambled on long enough. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to do some coaching or training, hit me up. Also, there's a link to my website in the description below. And in the meantime, make sure to like and share this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit that little bell indicator if you haven't done so yet. In the meantime, I have a little challenge for you. I want you to track your fiber intake currently, right now. Don't change anything. Drop me a comment below and tell me how much fiber you're averaging on a daily basis. And I'm not like one of those idiot trolls out there. I'm not going to shame anyone. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just curious and I want to know where you're at right now. Once you figure that out, you'll have a baseline and you're going to be able to move forward accordingly. Okay, that's a wrap. This is Kevin Dave Rail reporting live.